All right, welcome in. My name is PJ Miller, and along with me is Torey Jones. Torey, how you doing, bud?
I'm doing good, man. How you doing?
Good, good. So we are here today, and we're going to talk some Blazers draft. The Blazers this year have 3 first-round picks, number 15, 20, and 26. Kind of an eventful season for the Blazers. Started off pretty rough, but as the season kind of went along, you know, there was some gains with the trade for Nurkic. So Blazers' outlook is pretty good. Torey, what do you kind of see for what were your thoughts of the Blazers season?
It was up and down. It was a lot like the year before with a very slow start that kind of picked up. The Nurkic trade really kicked things into gear, but I don't know. It was a bit disappointing given the expectations coming into the season, but I think the future is looking a lot brighter after picking up that pick and Yusuf Nurkic in that trade with Denver.
Yeah, so talking about the picks, Portland, ended up making the playoffs, so they were not in the lottery this year, so they ended up with the number 15 pick. So we're going to kind of break down some of the prospects that are available with that number 15 pick, and we're going to start out with Justin Jackson. Justin Jackson is a small forward from North Carolina. He's a versatile player. Can play offense and defense. He's very good. Torey, what do you think about Jackson?
The big thing with Jackson is I think he'd be ready to play a role on a playoff team right away. A winner at North Carolina, won the national championship over my Gonzaga Bulldogs. That was a tough one, but I just think that he can be a really good shooter coming off of screens at 6'8". Usually guys with that size aren't good coming off of pin downs and curl screens, but he can catch and shoot at a high level with range. So I think it will translate well to the NBA. The biggest thing with him is, will he be able to create shots for others and himself going towards the rim at the next level? I think he can. He has a really nice floater, really quick, smooth floater, and a good pull-up game. So he'll be a good player, probably a starting small forward in this league if he can put the ball on the floor and handle and then defend on the other side of the ball.
Like you said, him being an upperclassman, it makes it so that he has the ability to like you said, step in and contribute right away, probably more so than some of the other players that they're looking at the 15. Jackson, he has that. He kind of, he's kind of like that prototypical 3 that everyone's looking for right now. He can do a little bit of it all. I think his ceiling is probably a little bit lower than maybe some of the other guys, but he's definitely a player that can definitely fill a role for the Blazers because they need 2-way players. You look at guys like Mo Harkless. He's a 2-way player, but he just doesn't quite have that ceiling that a lot of people want them to have. So. I think that he's going to be a good kind of a good player, a good option at that 3.
I'd say a good safe pick.
Yeah, of the 3 that we're going to look at, I think that he is the safest of the pick. You look at him; he's 6'8", 193 pounds, so he's not the biggest guy out there. So that's one of the concerns. He's going to have to fill out, but he does have the frame to be able to kind of carry that extra weight, which is a good thing. You look at 18.4 points, so he's definitely he can definitely score. He can get the ball into the basket. So he does do 2.8 assists, so not really the best. When passing, but he's definitely capable of being a team player, which is something at North Carolina that he really had to do.
He's the thing with North Carolina guys, I think, is sometimes when you're playing around a lot of talent, you don't really get to show what you can do. You don't get to show your full tool set, and with Joel Berry being one of the best point guards in the country last year for North Carolina, I think that Justin Jackson might not have been given responsibility of handling the ball enough to really show that he could do it. Kind of like Nick Batum in Portland when he was playing for Nate McMillan. He didn't get put in a role that had him passing the ball and running pick and rolls. And when Terry Stotts came in, Terry Stotts put him in that role, and he showed that he could do it. So there may be some untapped potential with Justin Jackson in those areas. Got to find out in pre-draft workouts.
All right, so we're going to move on to our next player is going to be OG Nunaby from Indiana. He is a small forward, power forward. He definitely has a bigger frame than Justin Jackson. Very versatile defensively. He can guard probably the 1 through 4. Quick feet. He did have an injury. He tore his ACL to end the season. So there is a little concern about some health issues with his knee and the ACL. So kind of what are your thoughts on Nunaby?
I was really high on him at the start of the season. When it was reported that he had a 7'6" wingspan, he actually only had a 7'2" wingspan, which is still pretty good. But you can just see on some of the dunks that he has how high he gets above the rim and how athletic he is. He'll be a lockdown defender in this league. I think he has a chance of being an all-NBA defense guy. If he can develop into a good offensive player, he'll be a great get. But it's just hard to tell if he'll be kind of like an Aminu type player where he can defend pretty well and is just not that reliable on the offensive end, or if he will develop into a good shooter or not. So that's the biggest thing with him. I think you definitely look at him if you think that he can develop into a decent offensive player, because the Blazers need defense, and he'd be a great guy to have on the wing.
Yeah, when you look at kind of the makeup of the roster, he does remind you a lot of Aminu. He also kind of like an MKG, Michael Kidd Gilchrist, kind of that defensive specialist with which if Portland has a little bit more offensive firepower coming in at maybe he could be a small ball forward, so if they have someone who's got a little bit more offense at the 3, then he might be a good option. But I just don't know if his fit, obviously with the backcourt that the Blazers have, they do need all the defensive help they can get, but I just think that kind of limits them offensively with a player like that if he doesn't develop that 3-point shot or the ability to create for himself or others.
Yeah, you're right on that. He does have a smooth stroke. It's not quite a catapult like Aminu has, but he does have a smooth stroke, and I think there's a couple, quirks in his form that if they get ironed out, he will be a decent shooter. And he shot decent at Indiana last year, so I think he's definitely shown he can be a good shooter. It's just tough with those defensive-minded guys that are, don't shoot many threes in a game. It's tough to tell if they'll be a decent shooter at, from the NBA arc when you don't really get to see them shoot much from the college arc.
Yes. So he's a interesting prospect. Is there any concerns? Do you have any concerns about the injury? Obviously, with the Blazers' history with knee issues and everything, ACL is usually one that people can come back from, and it's not a terrible issue.
Yeah, he was projected lottery before his injury. He probably would have went top 12 if he didn't get hurt. So his injury may be the reason that he's there at 15. But if you like who he is as a prospect, I mean, you don't get to see him in pre-draft workouts with, him rehabilitating that ACL injury. If you like him as a prospect, I could see taking the gamble at 15. It's a more riskier pick than Jackson, but sometimes you got to take a risk to get a real good player, and he's more of the boom or bust type prospect.
When you look at, the rumors out there of Mo Harkless possibly being on the block, maybe something with New York. Not sure if that's a trade-up possibility or them, just trying to, make a move for one of their small forwards. I mean, he is somewhat of a position in need, the 3 and the 4. If they did get rid of Mo Harkless, definitely someone who can play the stretch 4. That is a position that the Blazers would need if they did move Mo Harkless.
Yeah, he kind of fits that hybrid forward role. The guy that defends, big small forward, small ball 4, can play defense, shots kind of streaky. So he would make Aminu and Harkless expendable. but I'm not sure if he could play well right away.
All right, so let's go ahead and we'll move on to our next prospect here, and I think this is one where we'll probably disagree a little bit more than we did on
This will be
on
a
these
fun
two.
one.
Yeah. So we're going to look at John Collins here. John Collins of Wake Forest. He's 6'10". He's a power forward slash center. His wingspan isn't the greatest, but he averaged 19.2 points, 9.8 rebounds. He had a PER of 36.3, which is the highest in Division I basketball last year. He's a player that he's an energy guy. He has some pretty good offensive skills. He's definitely an above the rim player. He can get up and down the court very well. And I think that he kind of fits into the mold of a player who could play the 4 or the small ball 5, and with the Blazers needing a backup for Nurkic, and I think he could play some 5 against some of the the Draymond Greens and the smaller small ball 5s. I think that he would be a good pickup, and it's a guy who you could probably run some offensive through. He's got a pretty good jumper. If you watched any of his Draft Express videos, you can see that he's working on his 3-point shooting, and he's actually come quite a bit on that. So I think it shows that he does have some range to be able to be kind of that stretch 4. But his offensive game is pretty polished, but he is definitely an aggressive player, which I think at some points Portland needs.
Yeah, and I see what people like in him when they look at him. He's athletic, he has touch around the rim, and has range that extends, maybe to the arc. But the biggest thing I noticed with him is he was barely getting his shots off around the rim in college, and those were against smaller defenders he'll see in the NBA. One of his favorite moves out of the post is a turn and face and shoot a floater over the defender, and he's barely getting that shot off, and he made his bread and butter on that shot in college. In the NBA, going against bigger, tougher, more physical guys, I see him struggling to get shots off over people the way he did in college. He's athletic, but around the rim in college, he struggled to jump when there was anybody around him. He didn't really get up unless the guy was already under the rim. If he was getting bumped, he wasn't jumping. He wasn't showcasing his athletic talent like he has. So, I don't know. The thing with college players is just trying to figure out how their skills translate to the NBA, because not all guys can do what they did in college at the NBA level. And with him, I just think he'll struggle with the physicality of it. I think he'll struggle to get shots off around the rim that he did in college. And defensively, he's undersized, and he's not the strongest player. So those are my question marks with him. I could see him becoming a good player. I just don't think it will happen. But who knows with him? He has potential, but.
Do you think good comparison to Thomas Robinson? That's what everyone seems to kind of compare him to. But I think he's more polished offensively.
He's more polished offensively. Thomas Robinson played with a lot of power in college, even for a 6'8" power forward. He played, he used his strength a lot, where Collins is a little bit more finesse. But you just always got to be wary of those, shorter power forwards that don't have long arms. That's just kind of, I don't like power forwards like that. I tend to stay away from them, because I do feel like, undersized power forwards have trouble in the NBA going up against bigger power forwards and bigger centers. I just think that players like that might not be ready to deal with the size of the NBA.
All right, so there you have it. Our breakdown of the 3 prospects that are likely to be taken. Number 15 for the Blazers, OG Anunoby, Justin Jackson, and John Collins. So, mocks have been kind of moving back and forth on some of these prospects. Some of these prospects may move up, some of them may move down. I've seen Collins as far down as 23, and I've seen him up as high as 12. So, you know, there's definitely some, you know, we're in the season of, you know, there's a lot of, you know, posturing going on about where players are going to be. You know, you see the one draft video where a guy knocks down 4 3-pointers in a row, and, you know, suddenly he's a 3-point shooter. So, you know, there's a lot